The hardest part of roasting coffee isn't actually generating heat.
Right, yeah, not at all.
Honestly, if you just want to get green beans hot enough to crack, you could like throw them in a cast iron skillet on your stove. Or, I mean, just blast them with a modified popcorn popper.
Oh, absolutely. People do that all the time. But the real nightmare.
Yeah, the real thermodynamic puzzle that usually breaks most home setups. And, it's what separates the amateurs from the commercial cafes. It's figuring out what to do with the smoke before it completely ruins your entire batch.
Exactly. Smoke management is huge.
And closely tied to that is the challenge of replicating a perfect thermal curve. Because you don't want to end up with an amazing Ethiopian yirgacheffe on Tuesday and then like a baked ashy mess on Wednesday.
Which happens to the best of us, frankly.
Right. But today, we're looking at a machine that claims to have completely solved that thermodynamic nightmare for the small batch roaster.
It is a really bold claim. But, looking through this stack of technical documents, specs, and official brochures we have here, the engineering actually backs up the ambition.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are analyzing the all-new Kaleido M2 Lite 500-gram coffee roaster. Specifically, we're diving into the Artisan system model in black.
And the core promise here is bridging this massive, historically impenetrable gap.
Right, between the home user and the cafe.
Yeah, exactly. Because for decades, if you wanted cafe-level professional consistency, you needed industrial equipment. I mean, you were looking at pulling permits for gas lines, installing massive exterior ventilation systems.
Sacrificing serious square footage in your house or garage.
Yeah, exactly. But this M2 Lite promises to miniaturize that exact professional drum roasting technology into like a streamlined plug-and-play setup.
Which is huge if they can actually pull it off.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how this machine achieves that, who it's actually built for, and if it truly replaces the commercial warehouse setup for the precision-obsessed user.
It's a tall order for sure.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can talk about the sleek aesthetic or like the software integration, we really have to understand the engine.
Right, the fundamental heat source.
Yeah, we have to understand how this specific machine applies heat to the bean. The documentation leans heavily on this phrase, hybrid roasting system. How does that actually function in practice?
Well, heat application is the entire ballgame, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the hybrid designation is crucial here, because in traditional roasting, commercial machines usually lean hard in one direction.
Like either conductive or convective.
Exactly. You have conduction-heavy roasters, where the beans get most of their heat from physically making contact with a scorching hot metal drum. Or, you have convection-heavy systems.
The fluid bed roasters.
Right, where a massive cyclone of hot air just blows the beans around. But the M2 Lite doesn't choose between them. It utilizes a carbon fiber infrared heating method combined with both direct fire and surrounding hot air.
Wait, carbon fiber infrared? That's not your standard electric heating coil?
Not at all. And that's a big deal. Infrared heat behaves very differently than a standard resistive coil. It actually penetrates the cellular structure of the coffee bean much more efficiently.
Oh, instead of just blasting the exterior surface.
Exactly. So you have the direct fire element providing your baseline conductive heat through the 304 stainless steel drum. But simultaneously, the machine bathes the beans in a continuous stream of circulating hot air.
Okay. Wow.
And the raw power they've packed into this unit is substantial. I mean, it operates at 1,600 watts and boasts a rapid heating rate of 18 degrees Celsius per minute.
Okay, let me push back on that for a second.
Sure.
18 degrees a minute sounds almost like too fast. If you hit a raw, incredibly dense green coffee bean with that much infrared energy that quickly, wouldn't you just completely scorch the exterior?
You'd think so, yeah.
Like you'd end up with charcoal on the outside and raw, grassy cellulose on the inside?
You absolutely would if this were purely a conductive heat source, or, if the beans were static. But that is exactly where the surrounding hot air and the drum speed come into play to save the roast.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, the hybrid nature means the convective hot air penetrates the bean mass while the drum keeps them constantly tumbling. So it distributes that intense 18 degree per minute climb evenly across the entire surface area of every single bean.
Oh, I see. So you get the speed without the scorch.
Exactly. But the real trick is keeping that heat trapped. The M2 Lite is engineered with a zero temperature loss and zero air leakage design.
Which sounds intense.
It is. They've heavily optimized the air tightness of the chassis so that the internal environment remains completely stable, regardless of what the ambient temperature is in your room.
Which, okay, brings me to a massive contradiction I noticed when reading the airflow specs.
Oh, what's that?
The machine has this continuous hot air system, but the documents state it is constantly pulling in fresh room temperature air from the outside. If you are trying to maintain a perfectly stable, sealed thermal environment, pulling in cold air sounds exactly like, well, opening the oven door while you're baking a delicate souffle.
It does sound like a recipe for disaster.
Right. Doesn't that continuous cold air intake induce massive thermal shock to the beans?
What's fascinating here is how the engineering solves that exact thermodynamic problem. You are right that hitting a roasting environment with ambient cold air would just stall the roast curve immediately.
Yeah, it would kill the momentum.
But the cold air never actually makes contact with the beans. The M2 Lite utilizes a specialized cold-to-hot air channel. Think of it like a heat exchange jacket.
So it's siphoning heat from the system to warm the air before it ever enters the drum.
Exactly. When ambient air enters the intake, it is channeled past the extensively heated inner metal wall of the roaster. That 1600-watt carbon fiber infrared heater is not just heating the stainless steel drum.
It's heating the pathway itself.
Yes, it's heating this entire internal labyrinth. As the cold air travels through this pathway, it absorbs that ambient internal heat. By the time that specific air current enters the drum chamber, it has already been converted into pure hot air exceeding 200 degrees Celsius.
Ah, so it's a preheating runway. That's clever. But why go through all that complex engineering to pull in fresh air in the first place?
Good question.
Like, why not just seal the drum completely and recycle the hot air that's already in there?
Because of the smoke.
Oh, right. The smoke issue.
Yeah. As coffee roasts, especially as you push past first crack and develop those darker profiles, the beans release heavy smoke and off gases. And coffee is incredibly porous.
So if you trap it in there.
If you trap that smoke at a sealed drum to save heat, the beans will just reabsorb it. That is precisely how you end up with that unintentionally ashy, harsh, or, baked flavor profile.
Oh, wow.
So by continuously feeding pure 200-degree hot air into the drum, the M2 Lite acts as a positive pressure system. It's constantly flushing the waste smoke out through the 38-millimeter exhaust pipe.
It completely prevents waste smoke recirculation.
Exactly.
So you get exceptional roast clarity and even bean development without constantly dropping your internal temperature.
Precisely. And because that heat exchange jacket uses the ambient internal heat of the machine to warm the incoming air, they achieve an energy utilization rate of up to 90%.
90%. That is remarkably efficient.
It really is a marvel.
Okay, so the thermal dynamics are brilliant, but having an ultra-efficient 1600-watt infrared powerhouse is kind of the double-edged sword, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because raw power without absolute control isn't a coffee roaster, it's basically an incinerator.
Very true.
Like, if I can't harness all of that heat and airflow perfectly, I'm just going to reduce $50 worth of premium Panamanian geisha to absolute charcoal. How does the user actually interface with this engine?
That brings us to the control interface, which is arguably where the M2 Lite firmly crosses the line from, high-end home appliance to professional lab equipment.
Okay, let's hear it.
The machine features stepless manual control from 1 to 100 for 3 entirely separate critical variables: your airflow, your burner power, and your drum speed.
And having those 3 variables fully independent and stepless is everything. We aren't dealing with simple low, medium, high step dials here.
Not at all. It's completely fluid.
Right. So if your specific roast curve requires exactly 64% burner power, 82% fan speed, and a slight reduction in drum RPMs to, say, stretch out the Maillard reaction,
But
you can dial that in precisely.
exactly. Those 1% micro adjustments are what dictate whether a bean tastes like bright blueberry or flat cardboard.
And you aren't flying blind while making those micro adjustments either.
No, the M2 Lite is equipped with dual probe temperature measurement. It's constantly feeding you real-time data for both BT,
That's the bean temperature.
right, and ET, the environmental temperature inside the drum.
Which is standard on commercial gear, of course, but seeing it integrated into a compact machine is great, because you really need that ET reading to anticipate how your BT is going to react a minute down the line.
You really do.
Yeah.
But it's not just about seeing the numbers on a display. It's about what the machine actually does with that data. This feeds into the brains of the operation. The M2 Lite is fully compatible with Artisan open source software.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In fact, Kaleido is an official sponsor of the Artisan software.
For anyone roasting at a high level, Artisan is the undisputed gold standard. I mean, it's The software that basically runs the specialty coffee industry. The fact that it integrates natively is huge.
It connects via dual mode connectivity too. You can run a hardwired USB connection to your laptop for absolute stability,
Yeah.
or, use Bluetooth if you want a cleaner, wireless workflow on a tablet.
Nice.
Once connected, Artisan logs every single data point. It maps your BT, your ET, your rate of rise, all of it in real time.
Huh?
But the M2 Lite takes it a step further with its dual roasting modes.
Okay, what are the modes?
You can roast fully manually using those stepless controls to ride the curve yourself, relying on your own intuition. Or you can use the curve copy roasting mode.
Okay, wait. Let's hover on the curve copy mode for a second. Because this is the paradigm shift. This completely changes the daily reality of roasting.
It really does.
Huh?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the hardest thing to achieve in coffee roasting isn't a single good batch. The ultimate challenge is consistency.
Yes. If you pull off a miraculous roast manually, trying to replicate it 3 days later when the ambient room temperature is different or when your reaction time is just a half-second slower on the airflow dial, it's agonizing.
Agonizing and expensive if you're ruining good beans. But curve copy eliminates that variable entirely. You record your successful roast, store the data, and for your next batch, the M2 Lite will automatically replicate that exact roast curve.
It essentially makes you a data-driven flavor architect.
I love that term, yes.
Like, you do the hard work of manually exploring a new bean, figuring out exactly when to push the heat and when to back off, and once you hit that perfect profile, you just save it.
Right. And the next time you load those beans, the M2 Lite's internal logic just takes the wheel. It reads the probes and automatically adjusts the burner, airflow, and drum speed on the fly to match your saved graph perfectly.
It completely removes the guesswork and the stress from production roasting. A home enthusiast or a lab technician can confidently duplicate a phenomenal batch time and time again. The machine drives the car, right? You
Yeah.
just provide the map.
That's exactly it.
Okay, so the hybrid engine generates the power, and the Artisan integration provides the, god-tier digital control. But software is ultimately just code. Software can't physically drop a batch of beans. And software certainly can't stop an exothermic chemical reaction. How does the physical hardware of the M2 Lite keep up with the software? What is the actual physical footprint and workflow here?
Well, the physical density of this machine is arguably its most impressive trait. Instead of picturing a massive industrial unit requiring its own dedicated room, picture a footprint that is 445 millimeters long, 220 millimeters wide, and 313 millimeters high.
Okay, to visualize that, it essentially shares the exact same countertop footprint as your standard prosumer espresso machine.
Exactly. They have crammed a 1600-watt infrared heater, dual probes, an exhaust pathway, and precision motors into a chassis that weighs just 14.5 kilograms.
That's incredibly compact.
It is completely self-contained.
Yeah.
And it operates on a standard 110-volt or 220-volt plug-and-play electric format. You just plug it into a standard wall outlet.
The documentation mentions this light version is based on their existing M2 Sniper platform, right?
Right.
But they've streamlined the body panels.
Yeah, they dropped the top carry handle for a much sleeker, minimalist profile, but they kept the internal roasting architecture identical to the Pro models.
Okay, so performance and workflow are completely uncompromised.
Right. You still get professional physical touch points. It features a horizontal sampling spoon integrated into the faceplate so you can physically pull a small sample of beans mid-roast.
Oh, to check color development without breaking your thermal seal.
It's exactly. It also features a newly designed knob-style bean-in handle for dropping your green coffee into the drum, which auto-closes with a simple twist to lock that airtight environment back down instantly.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The spec sheet lists the batch capacity as 100 grams on the low end, up to 500 grams on the high end.
Yeah, with a total roast time of just 6 to 12 minutes.
Right, so that incredibly wide capacity range means this single unit serves two completely different ecosystems perfectly.
It really covers both ends of the spectrum flawlessly. If you are running a high-end commercial roastery, you don't test a new, incredibly expensive crop of coffee in your massive 15-kilo production roaster.
No, that would be a huge waste of money. You need a sample roaster.
Right. The M2 Lite can handle those tiny 100-gram sample batches to let you map out your curve in Artisan. But on the flip side, 500 grams is just over a pound of coffee.
Which is perfect for home. Roasting a 500-gram batch on a Sunday afternoon provides the exact right amount of coffee for a household's weekly morning brews.
It scales to your exact needs. But, whether you're dropping 100 grams or 500 grams, once that roast hits your desired endpoint, you have a massive physical problem to solve.
The heat.
Yes. Those beans are sitting at over 200 degrees Celsius, and roasting is an exothermic reaction. They possess so much internal thermal momentum that even after you cut the heat and drop them out of the drum, they are going to continue roasting themselves.
Yeah, if you don't strip that heat away immediately, your perfectly mapped medium roast will coast right into a dark, oily French roast while just sitting in the cooling tray.
Exothermic momentum is the silent killer of great coffee. To combat this, the M2 Lite integrates a rapid cooling tray directly into the workflow.
Does it require a lot of setup?
It requires almost no assembly out of the box. And the fan is powerful enough to strip the heat from a full 500-gram batch, bring it down to room temperature in just 2 to 3 minutes.
Wow, 2 to 3 minutes is the industry benchmark. You really have to halt that chemical development instantly to lock in the flavor profile Artisan just helped you build.
Furthermore, the machine manages the physical byproduct of the roast just as efficiently.
You mean the chaff?
Yeah. It features a fully automatic chaff collection system integrated into the base. It utilizes the airflow to pull the chaff away from the beans and deposit it into a designated, easily removable drawer.
Oh, that's great. So no mess and no fire hazard from stray chaff building up around the heating elements.
Exactly.
Speaking of fire hazards, pushing a countertop appliance to over 200 degrees Celsius obviously requires safeguards.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount here. The M2 Lite features an ultra-loud alarm system and a built-in overheat auto protection mechanism.
So it'll shut off if things go wrong.
Yes, if the system detects temperatures breaching safe operating thresholds, it will automatically shut the system down. They also take the physical integrity of the machine very seriously.
How so?
Well, it ships in a shockproof carton enclosed within a heavy-duty wooden crate, guaranteeing that the sensitive dual probes, drum alignment, and digital boards aren't compromised during global shipping.
Which is exactly what you want to hear when you're investing in precision hardware.
For sure.
So what does this all mean? When we synthesize all of these specs, the carbon fiber infrared hybrid heating, the heat exchange air system eliminating smoke, the infinite stepless control, and the seamless Artisan curve copy integration.
That's quite a list.
It is. What Kaleido has actually done with the M2 Lite is successfully miniaturize the entire commercial drum roasting workflow. They've democratized access to professional-grade roasting.
You really have.
You no longer need an industrial lease and gas lines. You just need a standard outlet and a countertop.
It entirely removes the infrastructural paywall that used to keep home enthusiasts and small labs from achieving absolute precision.
Well, for those of you listening who are ready to finally tackle that ultimate coffee frontier, here are the practical logistics. The Kaleido M2 Lite 500-gram Artisan system in black is currently on sale. It's priced at $2,150, marked down from $2,550.
Which, honestly, given the native Artisan integration and the robust physical build quality, is a highly aggressive price point in the smart roaster market.
It really is. You can pre-order the unit right now through the official Canadian distributor at kaleidoroasters.ca. The expected arrival for this brand new model is late June 2026.
Nice.
Now, Kaleido does operate globally across over 40 countries, so for our international listeners outside of Canada, we highly recommend contacting your local distributors to reserve your unit, as the demand for this specific form factor is incredibly high.
You know, stepping back and looking at the sheer capability of this machine, this actually raises an important question.
Oh, here we go. What's the question?
For the last 20 years, the universal excuse for a mediocre cup of coffee at home was our equipment.
Oh, totally. We blamed our grinders for producing fines, we blamed our kettles for thermal loss, and we certainly blamed our primitive home roasters for baking the beans.
Right. The hardware was always the bottleneck. But the M2 Lite removes that excuse entirely. It gives you absolute repeatable control over every single variable. You can perfectly replicate any roast curve on Earth.
So true.
So if the technology is no longer the bottleneck, what does your personal ultimate perfect cup of coffee actually taste like?
Wow. That is the ultimate rabbit hole, isn't it?
Exactly. When you have the tools to achieve literally any flavor profile, the only limiting factor left is your own creativity and palate. The question is, now that you can find the perfect roast, how many years are you going to spend chasing it?
That is a brilliant and honestly slightly terrifying thought to leave on. I mean, you could spend the rest of your life tweaking drum speed by 1 RPM just to see what happens to the acidity of a Kenyan pea berry.
You really could.
But, you know, that endless pursuit of perfection is exactly why we love this hobby. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the Kaleido M2 Lite. Keep experimenting, and we will catch you on the next one.